Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Bosco. Hi, Robert. Hi, Tanks.
Hey. Morning, everyone.
I will get the agenda ready and paste in chat. Meanwhile, if you've got it here, but I have some more detail which I'll paste. Meanwhile, if there are any other items to add to the agenda, please feel free to raise them now. So I just pasted the proposed agenda and pinned it in the chat. It's quite a full agenda. I don't expect to get through all the items that we can carry forward to next week, any that we don't cover, and some of them are essentially information items.
Okay, are we ready? Can we move on?
Look, let's wait for Late join us.
So 1 more minute.
I'm just checking who has joined us. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voting TSC members. So we are quorate. And we have some guests with us, including Robert Heaver from Charlie 3 and Vinay. So welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so I propose that we start the meeting formally. So welcome to the Technical Steering Committee meeting of the 4th of February 2026. First item on the agenda is to consider the actions from the last meeting. So as traditional, Bosco, perhaps you would walk us through them. And thank you to Neil for chairing the meeting last week in my absence.
Excellent. So I'm going to start with the actions from the last meeting. So is Marcus with us? It was to provide specific data for the SPO roundtable to the committee for promotion. So do we have Marcus here or we don't? We don't.
We don't. Let's just follow up with Marcus on that. I haven't seen that information, so let's just ask him to provide it for us.
Yes. For you and Neil, it's part of the agenda anyway, right?
Kevin, that happened yesterday.
It happened yesterday. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't see an invitation, Alex, so I'm not sure whether anyone else on the TSC saw the invitation. But
It was promoted through the Cardano community channel. Pi was there. The CTO or the CEO of Bhutan Protocol was there. Dominic Wallis was there, a DApp developer. So we had 2 views from the DApp development side and somewhat 2 views from the parameter or infrastructure side. They made a good discussion. The recording is available and it's already being or has already been discussed today on and off quite a bit on Twitter.
Great.
The reception was good. I mean, yesterday night was at 8 in the evening Europe time. There weren't too many people joining, but it has been watched afterwards more.
Great. Well, that's good. That's good to hear, Alex. So again, maybe we can promote that via the TSC Twitter account. If we haven't already done so.
Yeah,
Yes.
would be cool.
Brilliant. So we can cross that off the to-do list. Yeah. So carrying on.
Go on.
Yep. Just carry on.
Okay. You and Neil to review the Constitution 2.4, but that's on the agenda, right?
Yeah, we'll cover that later.
Okay, there was a back and forth discussion about the paragraph summarizing the stake pool math. So I don't know what to think of this action item here for Ryan.
Yeah, I had the I posted. Sorry, I'm a bit sick right now. I posted that in chat earlier last week. If you need me to share that again.
No, I don't know.
If you want to provide it as a note to the minutes, if it's public, Ryan, we can record it publicly in the minutes.
Sure, it sounds good. It's visual though. Should I share my screen or should I just summarize it?
I would say you can summarize it in a way and send the post what's to be part of the minutes, and we will make it part of the minutes.
Sounds good. So I ran some a script basically to collect how many pools would be affected by changing K, otherwise known as stake pool target num, from 500 to 1,000. And the goal is to see how many non-viable pools could be made viable by that change. And so I simulated 4 different scenarios. One scenario is if you just take all the oversaturated stake and you split it evenly amongst all the other pools, even if they're inactive. So it distribute it equally. One of them is if you distribute it to all pools that are non-viable, so less than 3 million equally. And then those 2 same categories again, but only looking at active pools. And then we defined active pools as in pools that have made a block in the past 36 epochs, which is 6 months. So there's 4 different scenarios there. And it looks like there are a total of 653 pools, active pools that are non-viable, and all 653 would be made viable in the last 2 scenarios. So if you were to distribute all oversaturated ADA to all active pools equally, or to distribute to all active pools with less than 3 million ADA equally, it would still cover all of the non-viable pools. And so to summarize how much that would be a pool per pool share, you split it up amongst all inactive pools, it's 1.85 million per pool. So there's a total of 5.45 billion ADA that would be oversaturated by the change. And so I guess I'll just read off the categories. The per pool share would be either 1.85 million per pool, 2.44 million per pool, 3.99 million per pool, or 8.34 million per pool. Now it's important to state that this is all speculative, as if no new pools were to be created. Surely there would be some new pools that would be created by this change, which would obviously affect the math, but there's really no way to estimate how many new pools would be made and how much stake would move to those new pools.
Great, thanks, Ryan.
Nicholas to contact Carlos to determine the release timeline for the incentive.
Yeah, I chatted with Carlos. They expect to have some simulation result by mid-March on top of the report that they have already disclosed. So I don't know. I don't remember how it fits with the info action or the parameter changes. Ryan, when is it expected again to have this vote about the parameter changes?
My understanding is after all of the other necessary hard fork parameter changes at the earliest, right? And we have the one going on right now, and we have 2 more.
Yeah.
And so it would have to be after that. But we will be. So that's for the parameter changes for K. There is a ballot coming up for SIPs to be included in a hard fork related to incentives, but that's not dependent on parameter change governance actions.
So it should be almost in time, a bit, probably a bit later, but yeah.
Yeah, and those SIPs would then need to be acted on, so they need to be picked up and implemented. So there needs to be some budget associated with this. Great. And final action we're going to discuss later, Bosky.
Absolutely, I'm moving on. So we can go with the agenda.
So second item on the agenda is Robert from Charlie 3 to talk about project incubation. So Robert, over to you for about 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me on the call today, and I really appreciate it. I apologize in advance that an uncaffeinated version of me before 7 a.m. is usually not unleashed in the world, so please bear with me. So Charlie 3 is a project that has, if you're not familiar, started in 2021. We're one of the oldest projects in the ecosystem. We're a decentralized Oracle network. We have 4 solutions, roughly, covering 117 repos. Obviously, not all those repos we want to open source, but the primary repos on our most recent solutions, the main ones we would like to open source. And so maybe some context about why now. Essentially, I have been pursuing this strategy for many years, but our leadership did not see eye to eye. And it was until December 2025 that I've taken over the sole executive control of Charlie 3. And so I'm pursuing this this open source strategy. And I think it aligns with our mission and vision from the very beginning, which was to drive adoption of Cardano, drive adoption of smart contract use, and enable use cases through Cardano. And we saw a gap there, missing in Oracle infrastructure to allow accurate and secure data to be delivered to builders. And so we kind of, our mission was always to raise adoption of this infrastructure. And all of our profit throughout the years has been put back into community feeds, subsidizing projects, providing price feeds just to drive adoption. And we've really, I think in a nutshell, struggled over the years with adoption for many reasons. I think there's some trust with having a closed code. I think there's also kind of an aversion to using a shared standard, especially if you're forced to go through one vendor. And so we're trying to eliminate that by going open source. And so the benefit to the ecosystem right now is that the solutions are typically fragmented. Some of them are bootstrapped in-house solutions that people have put together that are not have a dedicated resource towards it to maintain it, so it falls behind. These are things in the ecosystem that you only discover behind closed doors. I can tell you with confidence that most, if not all, the major protocols have had failures, data-related failures, but that never becomes public because it's easier just to pay off or refund users and wash it under the table. And so we want that to give people an option where not only are they able to use it freely to see the code, but to involve themselves in the governance and the design and scaling of the solution and the infrastructure. And that would bring our team great joy. For 4 years, we've been developing, hoping to get the solution that we're, 4 solutions, into the hands of the public. And so I think this aligns perfectly with Intersect. I've had conversations with Tex and Christian and about we're looking to bring in the community to govern us. We want some oversight. We're looking for guidance and support on what the community needs. And so this is why I'm coming to Intersect now. I'm hoping that you can incubate us and help us along the way in this transition. For us, it's primarily support and guidance on how to do this. We've already open sourced 3 out of the, or we have our 2 main solutions are open sourced, and then we have a business source license for a 3rd, which we're open to convert to Apache 2 or MIT. This is a discussion that I've been going over with the team. We're not really sure. Second, we have a marketplace that's going to have second layer apps that people can promote and sell and use, similar to the Red Hat strategy. is kind of the private side of things that we're looking to pursue. And then we'll have primarily enterprise Web 2 customers on a most likely an open, but a more, not an OSA compliant version of our forked chain. But yeah, that's in a nutshell what we're looking to do. And the main support we need is advice and guidance on how to transition, to promotion, obviously education to the community, how to interact with our software. We need partners. And part of this move also is to move away from the token as a utility reward token. And we're going to adopt most likely USDM. And the reason for doing so is to support the ecosystem, but more importantly, provide a stable payment for customers, for node operators, which is one of the largest issues that node operators face. And then two, for customers, if you're paying in a value that fluctuates, it's very painful as well. And so that's something we would like to hard code into the solution and go from there. Christian, sure.
Yeah, just to clarify the remit of the TSC on this, the incubation program is meant to help steward that. Anything we see as core infrastructure that would benefit from neutral stewardship. So that's what I've been talking with Robert on, that these certain projects may benefit from that, and we can transition it towards that more community stewardship, especially since a lot of core people have already adopted the repositories. I think it makes sense for that security piece and help overhaul our Oracle data infrastructure. So,
Thanks. Any questions on that?
So I think what we are as the TSC are being asked is, does this seem like, do we have a technical objection to this approach? What is that? Is that the question at this point?
correct. So the open source committee and technical steering committee will evaluate it on their remits. Does this make sense to bring under Intersect? If y'all say yes, the open source office takes ownership on the execution of that. So.
Okay, that's, I mean, it all sounds very sensible, right? That's all. Given the 5 minutes we've had, yeah, it all sounds very sensible.
Yeah. So we could. Has anyone got any other questions? But we could just take that as a motion to take a vote on that now, Neil, or we could read. There's some supporting material that Robert's provided privately that we could read and then take a vote next.
Can I suggest that we move this forward, and if anybody objects, after having, as opposed to forcing people to be, if they read the material and have questions, then we can always bring them up with other people, can't we? At that point, it's not an irrevocable yes at this point, if anybody's worried.
So you're raising a motion by default. So you're basically.
So I'm raising the motion that we do not see any reason why we shouldn't proceed.
Yeah. So any objections to that, please notify us now. Okay, so we'll proceed on that basis, Robert. And we'll attempt to read through the material in the background, and if we have any questions, we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the session, or to leave if you need to get some coffee, for example.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Next item on the agenda, Alex, Bluetooth memory limits.
Yes. What would you like to know?
Where are we? What do we need to do?
That's a bit of a cheeky question. The campaign.
For context, Alex, basically, it was what the main question was, advertising it so people, wasn't it? No, this is yes.
Yeah, exactly. No, yes, on Monday you've seen that I started the campaign from my own account that Intersect has retweeted, Intersect TSC has retweeted, Cardano Foundation and Cardano Community account has retweeted, strategically split across 2 days, and by now indeed the conversations have started. I also posted it on various Discord channels. Marcus also raised it again in their SPO channels. So now people are actively talking about it. I would book our campaign this week as highly successful, and would reevaluate where we are by the end of the week, Friday, and look again what to do on Monday if we are far away from thresholds. The reception isn't bad at all. People struggle to understand, but then myriad of other people that we have no connection to jump in and say, don't worry about it, the changes are so conservative, it's all good, they're going the safest route as possible, this is a no-brainer to approve. People just need to do it. There is no real objection apart from the things that we also address within the rationale.
Yeah, so the situation as I see it, so I just posted a link in the chat to the governance action in GovTool, which we could possibly put up. But my understanding is we've got 9 days left on this governance action. It expires on February the 13th. And currently there are 30%, 31% of DRAPs voting in favour, but only about 11% of SPOs. So we need both the SPO vote and the DRAP vote. So the SPOs seem to be quite a long way from supporting this. And we clearly need to make a push to them for them to vote.
Do you have current numbers on this? Because yesterday was 19% SPOs.
Right. Okay, I'm looking at the information in GovTool. So if you're telling me the GovTool is out of date, that's fine. What I'm seeing, if you follow the link I've posted, is 1.8 billion votes yes from SPOs, which is 31.4%, 3.38% against, not voted 65%. And then on the SPOs, 2.35 billion in favour, which it's calculating as 11%, and 18.98 billion not voted, no votes against.
Interesting that the percentages don't match with the link that I have. Sebastian also checked ADA stats. That would also be the number that I see on. Sorry, I posted the wrong link. Within that tweet, you see the CGov app,
right?
And there it also says 19.5% like an ADA stat.
Right. Okay.
I would believe more ADA stat than GovTool at this point. GovTool is not maintained actively.
Okay, so we're thinking that GovTool is out of date. So the numbers may be greater.
The new kid on the block, governance tools wise, is CGov.
CGov.
Yes.
Okay.
From Sidan Labs.
I'll put a link for that.
Yes, within my tweet, I copied the
within
wrong one.
Within your tweet.
Yes.
CGov,
Copied the wrong one. CGov, that's the one.
Right, so it's sort of saying DRAPs have voted 30% yes, roughly 31% yes.
31% yes, yeah.
And SPOs have voted nearly 20% yes. But so we're 20% short in one and 30% short in the other. And I think 1 CC vote, or is it 2 CC votes? Because it's got to be, that's only at 50% and it needs to be at 75%. So
yeah, I'm seeing 3 votes from the CC and 8
So, okay, so right, and we have 9 days. Take that link. I'm going to put that in the minutes.
So what I decided to wait on until Friday, and I could probably speed it up for tomorrow, would be to ask Mikhail, our exchange integrations lead, to advertise exchange pools to vote.
That's great. I've got a call this afternoon with someone from Emergo who's asking for information about it. So
Perfect.
I will talk to them and tell them about that, and that will help. But I think that will probably help from an SPO as well as a DREP perspective. Do they run pools, Alex?
Yes, they run the largest stake as the DREP. Yoroi and Emogo together control like what, 12%?
Great. Okay, so I will have a discussion with them, and hopefully they will vote in favour.
Okay, so that sounds like we're getting there.
Yeah, and there's an SPO call tomorrow. There's the regular monthly SPO call. We can promote it on that. Are you going to be there, Alex? If not, I
Not
can.
yet, not yet, but I can probably.
Okay, so if you're not there, I can promote it. But if you are there, that would be great.
Yep.
Brilliant. Should we move forward if there's nothing else to discuss?
I would say that the next topic is TSC operational budget, and there are a number of things here. You can paste the links in the chat as well if you want to. Kevin, I just want to be mindful of time, so this might, I don't know, just depends how much time is going to be spent on this one, given the fact that there are other items on the agenda. So,
yeah, I think we need to spend enough time on this one, Bosco. The reason being, so let me give some context to the rest of the TSC members. So there was a discussion at the ISC about committee budgets for 2026. There's a document that I've circulated of guidance. Now, what we're being asked to do is to prepare a budget for the end of February. So we only now have 3 to 4 weeks to determine this. There's a set of guidelines that we need to comply with. As I said, I've circulated those. I've read through those this morning and to see if there are any issues that affect us. And I can see there are 1 or 2 things that could affect us, for example, to do with the amount that we would be asking for from the budget, which exceeds 1 million ADA in the draft that we've got at the moment. That would then mean that we have to go through a few more hoops in terms of getting the budget signed off by Intersect, and we would need to include administrative costs in the proposal. So there's a bit more work to do on that. Also, I was noting that some clauses, for example, to do with not funding any travel for committee members, and I would propose that we query that with the Intersect executive, because obviously one of the things that we had asked for was precisely travel funding to attend technical events, including technical meetings and workshops that we would be organising. Tex.
Yeah, if I may, I can shed just a slight bit of context on that. So when this document was drafted, even ourselves as secretaries, we recognized that immediately, and we're kind of blinking eyes. The caution here is it's not saying don't do it at all. What it is saying is ensure that if you're asking for something of that nature, ensure that you can provide or list out what a specific ROI for that travel would be, right? That may also include more specific intent, right? So if the TSC is going to be part of supporting some type of hackathon or is going to sponsor, let's say, a no diversity workshop or something of that nature, yes, obviously TSC representation is going to need to be there. So it's thinking about it more in that caliber, saying, hey, we're asking for travel funds, but here's these specific things. Here's the reasons why we would spend this money, not just some slush fund for us to run around with. That's why that's written in there. I understand it's not great as it is. So if there's suggested feedback as to how we improve that as a warning.
I think the point is, I mean, we've already said that if we attend and make our presence shown. So I think we at the events like the following. I mean, that seems like that's the major justification for that part, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also to provide a presence at events like the Cardano Summit, Rare Evo, etc.
Right.
So there's community engagement issues as well. So it's not a case of anyone wanting to travel for the sake of traveling. I don't think anybody.
It's good.
want to do
You've
that.
got to do this. Yeah, who wants to travel? Right.
But it's not. So it's and it would be to provide funding only where travel funds cannot be obtained from other sources. So there are, where someone is employed by a vendor, for example, and the vendor is paying for them to travel, and it seems entirely reasonable for that not to be funded from the source. But where someone is working as a private individual, for example, and has no other funding, then that would be justified. So it would need to be justified on a case-by-case basis tax. Okay, so I've put together based on the actions from 2 or 3 weeks ago. I put together a list of questions to put to the executive, which I've pointed everyone here at. And what I'm proposing to do is to add that question to the list, which I will pass on via Bosco later today. So we get some feedback on that. Do we want to discuss the items? We've had some brief discussion on the items we're including. I've filled out what I think is a complete draft, and I extended what we had been doing to include support for the hard fork working group, again for members who are not otherwise, so for community members who are not otherwise funded. I think we need to professionalize this. There was an item we had last year for proposed town halls. I'm not sure that they need funding, so what I would probably propose to do is to remove that from the funding request. And what I'm seeing at the moment is basically something like $120,000, because we're working in dollars, for what we're calling operational costs. So this is meeting organization, attending meetings, etc., and something like I think it's $200,000 for community support, which would include things like the Hard Fork Working Group and Security Council, again for members who didn't have other funding sources, parameter committee work, SIP editors. We've had some discussion in the background about the SIP editors. We think we should formalize that. So that's roughly where we are. And looking at current ADA conversion rates, that puts us over the 1 million threshold for the committee budgets. Neil. You're on.
You did need.
Sorry, putting two and two together, you said that the thing that was missing was we have to include administrative costs, which we've not yet included in this budget. Is that correct?
Correct. So there's the rest costs that have to be included.
But the reason I ask this, right, is in order to, we can make a guess at how much FTE equivalent we need of administration, right? But we don't have a value for how to convert that into dollars or ADA. We need that conversion factor in order to put it in our. That's what I'm trying to bring up, is if they want us to add a new class and they're saying you have to pay us money to do this, which is fine.
Yes.
What's the rate?
Yeah, so that's one of the questions that I put into this document, which I'll pass on to the delivery team or to the executives to answer. Because without that, we can't know whether we are exceeding this 1 million ADA threshold or not. But based on current ADA conversion rates and the dollar budget that we're assuming, it looks as if we are. Yeah.
Well, I would suggest we should be using rates like, 0.2, 20 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents, and see where we get to, yeah, right?
Yeah, but then other committees should be doing the same, of course.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is why we need to ask Intersect what is the rate we should be using rather than assuming some rate. Yeah. So what they're saying is requests exceeding 1 million ADA must include explicit justification addressing appropriate resources to manage the budget, appropriate resource to deliver what's been requested, which I believe we have, but we would need to double check with the executive, and appropriate overheads proportional to scope. And I'm not sure what the overheads rate would be, but I don't think we can put those figures in Bosco or find the justification. What I think we've got to do is go to the Intersect delivery team and say, well, what should we put in? And then we can expand on that as necessary. Okay, but they can't simply say to us, guess what the overheads should be. That's not a reasonable thing to do. Did everyone take a few minutes to look at the content of the budget proposal? I see Neil's nodding. Yeah. Is anyone unhappy with the content as it stands, as a draft?
I put one comment, and I probably want to raise it to this meeting as well.
Okay.
There's one big cost center, which is milestone technical reviews.
Yeah.
And the cost per milestone is $200. In my opinion, it's either way too low or way too high. What I mean by this is $200 is roughly a day of work, and probably a bit less. So if we expect to review milestone within a day, I would probably suggest to not review them at all, because it will save us money and it won't give us less guarantee.
Yeah, so this is something to, I think probably the correct thing to do here, Nicholas, is to enter into some discussion with the delivery team. So maybe I can talk to the delivery team. So what I can say historically is the way that the milestone reviews worked, or most of the milestone reviews worked, is the team delivered a report, a short report, which we read, and then there was a 1-hour meeting when the milestone was presented and reviewed. So that was typical for most of the milestones. For Paras, there was a 3-day workshop. So this is the other end of the spectrum, and obviously that would have involved much more time expenditure and much more cost. So we need to figure out what is a sensible number. So I picked $200 basically as some small number of hours working on the minimum wage in California.
Okay, but that's okay. I continue to be totally opposed to this part of the budget, and I think we should definitely drop it and not do any milestone review at this rate. I'm sorry, it's unprofessional to me.
Yeah.
Is your worry about doing the milestone review or the rate at which the milestone review is being charged?
One or the other, actually. I mean, either we do it correctly and it will be way more expensive, and we need to decide whether we want to do it at the correct rate, or we don't do it. I'm good with both, but we need to understand what we want to achieve. Yeah, sorry.
If we don't do it, right, then basically how does the technical input happen before the money's spent? So I think we have to do them.
Yeah, I don't. And when we say we here, Neil, it's not the technical.
Not necessarily yes, but we as a community have to do them, right? Right.
Oh yes,
I mean,
yes, but that's my problem. Yeah, I would prefer to say milestone are unreviewed rather than saying, oh yes, it's reviewed, and do a poor job at it because we don't put enough money into it. And I think you will probably agree with me on this, Neil. We don't want to just look at something during a day, look and say, oh yes, it looks technically correct. Maybe I spent a day looking at it. It just sounds stupid.
So I think there's the real point is that the assurance process is founded on the fact that technical reviews can be done, right? If you take the whole PERAS thing, the final review for that was 3 days. Now, what's 3 days in Paris is what? A couple of grand, got a few thousand, 3 or 4. It's about 500 a day at least, or 800 a day to do that type of thing, right? So we are talking, this sort of stuff should be about 5 to 10% of the budget of what you're spending in order to review it. But that's not the way that the community wants. Well, given that when things start failing and falling flat in their face, I think there'll be more money for this, right? But I think, I would say we need a beginning budget to get started on this, and in the medium term, we're going to need a cohort of people who are willing to literally go for a day or two to places, because it doesn't work otherwise.
Yeah, we need to establish that cohort and build up the
Yes.
organisation to do that now. And obviously we have technical experts here, but the technical expertise is not limited to this group across the community. It shouldn't be limited to this group.
And there will always be a fair likelihood of conflicts of interest from this group as well. So we need a wider group of people so that we can make no conflicts. We can show that we're dealing with that issue. Yeah.
Great. So Nicholas, make a note of your point. So what I would suggest, Bosco, if we can get a meeting with, for example, Matt or someone else in the delivery team, and we can go through what's being proposed here, and we can then have a discussion about what appropriate rates might be. Okay, we can then
sure. Just tell me only you and Matt or all of us.
Happy to expand it to other people if they want to be involved in the meeting, but equally happy just to report back to this group.
My guess is you talk to Matt, and Matt says, "Well, this is what we're expecting, right?" And then the expectation drives the value, right?
Yeah. Okay. So that seems a reasonable way to proceed. And there's also a budget item. There's also a line item for reviewing the proposals that come in, providing technical evaluation feedback that could be used by the DREPs. Hopefully we would get the budget in time to be able to provide input. And again, Nicholas, I've costed that at a nominal rate. This is based on the rates that governments, for example, pay for reviews of academic proposals. So that you might well say that's too low. We can argue the amount, but it's getting
my problem is mainly on the milestone. It's just highly technical stuff that we will review in a day. And again, I understand that maybe we want to start small. I will just argue that it's a waste of money at this rate. That's it.
Okay. Well, we don't want to waste money, Nicholas. Absolutely. But equally, we don't want to trigger people's reactions to excessive spending. So we need to find the right balance on that. We need to be able to justify it.
I mean, I think we need to go and say to people, do they want it properly technically reviewed? Full stop. Because if they don't want it technically reviewed, then there's no budget for it because it's not going to get done. And if they want it reviewed, then they're going to have to accept it costs something, right? Done properly. And if they say that's too much money, then basically, if you pay monkeys, you get peanuts. Or was it if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys? I can't remember which way around that one goes. Yeah.
And it's not a lot of money compared with the development budget, Neil.
No, not at all. I mean, if a day, that's not a. Yeah, yes, it's not at all. Right?
Okay. Were there other items in the budget that people found contentious they wanted to discuss further?
I wanted to ask whether the ordering is any in particular form, like in the way they are listed in at least these two categories we have.
No.
Okay.
If you want to reorder them in order of importance, for example, what you feel is order of importance, very happy to accept that change.
Yeah, I think it's mostly follows the I think, my understanding of importance and priority within the category.
Okay.
So
That
just
would be
wanted to clarify.
ideal ordering, but people might disagree on the importance.
Yeah, so if we have an ordering and we maybe can see, like, we could argue on the ordering, we'd say if there needs to be a budget cut, we could start on the bottom.
Yeah, that's another question I have for the executives or the delivery team, which is we quote, for example, at some rate which has been predetermined, and in the unlikely event that the actual rate is lower, what happens to the budget? Okay, so then, as you're saying, you might have to cut some lower items, or even during the submission process, there might be some discussion, and then some of the items might need to be cut, indeed. Okay. Do I have your permission to start to share this budget beyond the technical steering committee at this point? Yeah, anyone object to me sharing it in its form or in a likely edited form, removing the town halls, for example? Okay, I'm taking that.
If I wasn't clear enough, I have an objection on this budget, but I formulated it. So if the rest of the TSC is happy with it, we can proceed.
Okay, I've taken your objection on board, Nicola. We will attempt to resolve it, and we can come back to it. This is only a draft at this point in time. Great. So then we'll get that circulated. We'll need to do some socialization of this. I'm not sure what the correct process is for that. Again, I can talk to Bosco about that. So thanks everyone. Conscious of the time, should we move on to the next agenda item?
Yes, sure.
So review of the Cartano Constitution version 2.4. I'm not sure what the status is with Neil. I've taken a look at the changes. I still need to take a proper detailed look. So most of the changes are to do with terminology and wording, and some formatting changes. Now, the terminology, I'm concerned to do a proper job on that, because even a small change in wording can make a big technical difference to what's intended.
You mentioned, for example, they've removed bolding, which of course was part of the semantics of the document, wasn't it?
They've removed, yes, they've taken, so we had very carefully inserted bold face in the guardrails to indicate conditions that had to be satisfied by a guardrail script, or which should be satisfied by which either had to or should be.
Which is the sort of standard thing you do in an RFC, right? You basically you capitalize it or whatever, and you say, this and it means this, right? And yeah.
So that I regard as a retrograde step, but not something which is fatal. Now so the terminology. They've changed the definitions they've introduced some definitions of terms, and we might or might not agree with them. So we need to review those definitions and confirm that the definitions are correct. There is a substantial change to the way that budgets are dealt with. So the info action for a budget proposal has been removed. There is now only a requirement for a treasury withdrawal. So one of the safeguards that the Civics Committee had put in place for the management of budget has been removed. I think that's been done simply to make it easier to make treasury withdrawals, but that is not necessarily a good thing, of course. And apparently, I need to confirm this. They have removed from the Constitution the clause which required the budget to be spent in ways that promoted the good of Cardano. Okay, so I need to double check that, but that I regard as quite alarming, because apparently, if my reading's correct, you can now spend the Cardano treasury on anything you like without having to justify it. Okay, so need to double check that. Don't want to be overly alarmist at this point in time without checking it. But that does raise definite alarm bells, particularly given the number of DREPs who control the voting power at the moment.
The other thing is that which really annoys me is the whole of the Cardano thing was written, and the whole of the constitution was written so that it could be potentially machine parsed and machine managed, right? And this meant uniqueness to all the tech, i.e. the identifier had a unique semantic meaning, and all the identifiers have been reused.
Yeah, I was going to come back to that. So there is, so one of the other changes that's been made is to change everything from definitions of weeks or weeks or months into definitions of days. Okay. Now, I'm not quite sure why that was done, but as Neil says, the labels for the guardrails have then been reused. We spotted this 2 weeks ago when we were looking at one of the security definitions, and it looked as if the guardrail had been removed. In fact, the labeling has been reused, and that creates a problem for tooling, and it creates a problem for some AI or similar parsing. It also creates a human problem in terms of knowing definitively which guardrail is being enforced. So it creates a problem for people submitting governance actions in determining the guardrails that they're submitting the action against. Okay, so I think the changes were well intentioned, but the process there is not ideal, and there's a possibility that this may make the constitution as enacted unconstitutional, so self-inconsistent, because there was a provision, as I recall, that each guardrail had to be unique and any changes had to be unique. So this constitution might technically not be enforced. Okay. So we need to double check that, and I'll once we have the time to do that, we can come back with a proper assessment. So I know that some people, so Nicholas Czerny from the Civics Committee, sorry, no, it's Cardano Eastern Council, is also concerned about the constitution, but concerned by the process rather than the content. So there is concern, some concern in some part of the community about the constitution. So we'll do the evaluation. Maybe it's not too serious. Maybe, as I said, the constitution is internally inconsistent. Which
we don't have I mean, if you can drive the point is it was intended so you couldn't drive a horse and cart through it, and here they've just blown it up. And especially if they've removed if they've removed the need to spend it on Cardano, all the rest of it, this really looks like the optics are bad, as they say. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to obtain this by looking at diffs, Neil. So I need to double check that that's actually happened. So all I can tell is certain parts have been removed, for example, from the diff, and it's possible something else has been added in, or there's some other clause which covers that. So maybe it's just some duplications being removed. So no need to get too explosive yet, but there's a possibility that there's an issue.
I was got at the lack of the reuse of labels. I'm sorry. Right now, that is it's an absolutely serious problem, because it just introduces ambiguity,
which is regrettable, unfortunate, as I said, may cause other issues. But let's come back to this next week. I'm afraid I was away for most of last week, and there have been some other issues going on in the background that I've not been able to do a full review of that. Okay, from the rest of the agenda items, a lot of these are in the form of updates. I think, Sebastian, you had some comments on the 2030 KPIs. Maybe you and Leandros would like to discuss that in the time we've got available. And then we'll pass over the other items either as information items or we'll come back to them next week.
Yeah, I'm not fully checked in with where we're at on reviewing the product KPIs. I just happened to stumble over it in my day job, actually. So I was looking at the main KPI, which is, I think, increasing adoption to some 27 million per month transactions. And at the same time, I also saw the, I think, secondary KPI of increasing the capacity, the throughput capacity by 3x. And I did quickly do the math about it. It's a bit unsharp because you really don't see like what kind of transactions, right? It really depends on what's the capacity, the technical capacity about the network. But if you use a mean transaction size currently, and then you will see that it's really tightly knit to the edge. Kind of it's near full capacity usage to actually attain the adoption target. So the 3x will probably be too little to kind of as a target. That's just one of the sanity checks I kind of stumbled over, and maybe just wanted to mention it. And I think this is something we have been discussing in the past. These kinds of kind of sanity checking the targets is what we wanted to do.
Yeah, so thanks for that feedback. You hopefully pass that on to Leandros. I think Leandros is not with us, but
Hey, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, you are there. Great, Leandros. Do you want to?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to do anything on that. I'm pretty swamped, but I will try until the next meeting to compile a set of realistic targets for the KPIs, conservative, optimistic, and a stretch target, break up the targets into the runway that is 2026, 2030, so make sub-goals.
Yeah.
I'll try to have that done by next week, so then the committee, we can talk about them and refine them and reach a consensus. If anyone has something, target or a KPI that they believe it's important and needs to be included or needs to be taken in advice before I do the initial draft, I'm very willing and happy to hear.
Could you take an action to inform the product committee that we're doing that, please, Leandros? Because I'm getting some feedback that there's an intention to put this on chain as an info action. I think at the moment it's premature to do that. But
I'm not sure how to contact the product committee, but I'll give that a try if you give me the contact info.
Bosco, you can provide contact. You can pass that on to the product committee if we need to.
Yes.
But I think so, Leandros, if you could take the action of coordinating with the product committee as necessary to make them aware that this is going on. What we don't want is to have an info action going on chain that hasn't been properly evaluated,
Okay.
that is rushed. Because if we do that, what we're then doing is to set up perhaps unattainable goals, which might then mean that nobody can submit any work items because they can't be carried out.
Mm-hmm.
That would be unfortunate, shall we say,
Okay.
for the sake of defining a set of aspirations.
All right. I'll try to get that to them before they put them on chain.
Yeah, it's just to make people aware of that. And perhaps we should also be providing feedback not just to the product committee, but if you feel it's appropriate, we could also do this via the Twitter account.
Oh, that's a bit. I would suggest you don't want to do that till that might be seen as underhand.
Okay.
You know,
Let's
let's make sure the product. I mean, let it be minuted that we have deep concern. We have technical concerns, that we're telling the product committee these technical concerns make it looking consistent, at
Okay.
least it might. And if they then go and publish it on chain, then we can then say, what are you doing? Right.
Oh, I didn't mean it antagonistically, Neil, or confrontationally. What I meant is we should open the discussion with the community about the goals.
I'm assuming the product committee has done that.
They've run a series of workshops. That's how they've come up with the goals. But then the discussion we had with the product committee indicated that some of them hadn't received a lot of depth of thought, and we were asked to review them from a technical perspective.
Yeah, I'll have to wait. So, yep. At the very end, they ask us for lots of work. Yeah. Lack of planning on their part doesn't make a crisis on ours.
It can create a crisis on us.
Kevin, may I ask, is the next step, actually, to make sure I understood correctly, is the next step that Leandros will do some work and then I will reach out to the product committee, or what needs to happen?
What I think we need to do, Bosco, is to reach out to the product committee and say, yes, we're doing this. Yeah. So before Leandros has done the work, say that to tell them Leandros is working on this, for Leandros then to do the work that he's proposed, and then we can feed that back to the product committee or the community as appropriate.
Okay. We are at time, so do we continue on something or we drop it here?
I would propose we pass the other agenda items off to next week, unless there's anything critical that anyone wishes to raise. No. Well, thank you all for a great discussion as always. Look forward to talking to you very soon. Neil and I think are going to talk to the network team now.
I need the URL for that. Can you send it to me by an appropriate method, please?
Will do. Thanks everyone. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye-bye.